Hello, everyone, and welcome to West Coast Offshore Sailing, part 3 of a 3-part series. So this is the last one for those mathematicians at home. We are going to be focusing on the California Offshore Race Week, which is coming up, and then kind of do a lead into Transpac. And we touched on it a little bit last time, but we have a few other details that we'd like to go over. We're going to give everybody a few seconds to kind of filter in. But while we're waiting, boys, how we doing? This is part 3. We kind of know the drill by now. Brian, are you there? Where are you at?
I'm over here. I'm here in San Diego.
Nice. And Trick, where are you calling in from?
Right down the hall from Brian, right here at North Sales, San Diego.
Nice. And Billy, where are you? You in Long Beach or Marina Del Rey?
I'm in Marina Del Rey.
Nice. Well, Thank you for joining me. This should be a lot of fun. California Offshore Race Week is known for its epic conditions. It's a three race series, so to speak. So the first one is the Spinnaker Cup, which is from San Francisco to Monterey Bay. It's about 95 miles. It's a sprint. Trick, the Trimaran King. You've done this race. You probably won it. Probably sets all sorts of records. Tell us a little bit about the Spinnaker Cup and why it's so cool.
Yeah, Spinnaker Cup's really cool. So, you know, they've done this California Offshore where they combine these 3 races so that you can kind of do them in sequence. And, you know, this is essentially more of a Northern California race. It's been going for a long time. But it's classic. It's, you know, beautiful sail. You start in the bay and, you know, you sail upwind out of the bay under the gate. And, you know, in this picture, it looks pretty windy. Normally, when you're starting Spinnaker Cup, you start fairly early, so it's not quite as windy as it is in this picture. But, you know, it's beautiful sail under the bridge and then out the gate. And, you know, it's kind of interesting because a lot of times as you exit the gate, it actually gets lighter. You know, so we think of San Francisco as such a windy venue, but then as you make your way out the gate, it starts getting a little bit lighter. And then it's, you know, it's all about when to head south and start heading, you know, kind of down the coast towards Monterey. And, you know, it's really key. There is a provision that you have to go outside the what they call the potato patch, where it's shallow and can be breaking waves, but it's pretty rare that they send you that. So most of the time you can just sail right over it. Can be pretty upwind for the majority of the beginning of the race, kind of on starboard tack. Starts freeing up. You get into some reaching combinations, reaching sails, and then you kind of get down towards Half Moon Bay, Pillar Point, and the breeze starts normally working its way aft. So, you know, as you see there, you know, Monterey Bay is kind of, you know, down at the bottom, and Pillar Point is that first point that's sticking out. Alex, if you can go back a couple.
Sorry.
Yep. And then, so then it's really key, you know, you just kind of into a nice long reachy section of the race. And then once you get into Monterey Bay and start working down towards kind of Santa Cruz and northern part of Monterey Bay, it's usually into nice running conditions. And it's nice big breeze. One thing that's really cool there, but it's also kind of sketchy while you're sailing fast and big breeze, is there is a ton of wildlife, and there are a ton of big whales out there. And I know one of the years we did it, we were basically just like watching for spouts, and they were so close to the boats. It was kind of unreal and unnerving at the same time. So keep your eye on that. And then it does get kind of funky when you get really close to Monterey. As you can see down at the bottom, you start tucking in behind the Monterey Peninsula and right up into the corner. And it's really intense because the finish is like on the beach. So you have to have kind of a jib on deck, or, you know, if you've been sailing downwind, it could get light. You can keep your eye out. The wind can shift back to the south. And so you just really have to be ready to, you know, get your sails down and be safe, not hit the beach, and be, you know, ready for wind shifts as you approach Monterey. And as you see right here, the finish area is like basically on the beach right in Monterey. So really classic race, beautiful conditions. And normally if the west wind is in, it's just a, you know, solid 18 to 22 knot downwind transit of Monterey Bay.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, definitely looks like you got to take the Spinnaker down quick. So the second part is the Coastal Cup. We now are bringing in sled wizard himself, Bill Herrschaft. Bill, you've done this race. You know, it's a little bit longer than the Spinnaker Cup. sort of a build up kind of the whole time. Talk a little bit about this race and what makes it so cool.
Yeah, this race has been around in some form for a long time. I actually did it a bunch back in the heyday of the sleds, and we'd have a lot of boats doing it. Getting out of Monterey could be light. You could be beating with a light Chenoa. As you turn the corner, you could even maybe have an A1 up as you start to turn left. Throughout the day, heading south, the wind could increase, and it could just gradually increase a lot. And you'll have to check the weather forecast for that. The other thing about this race is the waves get short and steep, and the top of the waves get wind blown. So as the wind increases and the waves get shorter and steeper, it turns into a really wet ride, and you might even find yourself burying the bow a lot. And when you bury the bow, things load up and things break. So depending on the forecast, and depending on how the wind is increasing trend, you might even shift to an A4 Spinnaker. And then later on at night, as the sun goes down, it could be howling. But also, if you can stack sails, you might want to stack the sails aft a bit so you don't dig the bow and bury it. It's not like the Transpac where you get these big roller waves. These coastal waves are short and steep, and that's how things break. Yeah, that's about it. You'll toward the end there, you'll dodge some oil rigs, so keep an eye out for those. And then coming into Santa Barbara.
Sounds like this is a race where, equipment on your body is probably pretty important too. You want to make sure you have the proper gear, proper underlayers, proper socks, all Gore-Tex material. This does not seem like your day sail down the coast. This seems like it's a big boy race.
Yeah, and it's early enough in the year. It's gonna be cold, so cold and wet.
Gotcha. The third race to kind of wrap it all up is the Socal 300. This is the longest race of the three. 2 years ago, there was Sharon Green took epic pictures of boats, going around going around the island there and then blasting down towards San Diego. Brian, what makes this race so cool, and what are some things to kind of look out for?
Well, you get back into the big breeze here on this race. The hard part's to start. Usually it's pretty light. You tucked in right there at Santa Barbara and end up doing a little beating, going almost north, it feels like, but you're really going west. And then you start turning kind of more south towards the island. And about halfway across the channel there, you start getting into big breeze. The last time I did it, I think halfway across, we were in a reef until we rounded the island and bore away even more. We were able to shake it out and get into an A3. Then you can see from the tracks there, everybody starts jiving because you get lifted behind Santa Barbara Island there. And then you gotta be careful because you don't want to get onto the wrong side of St. Nicholas Island here. You can see this is from 2019. And this pack of 4 boats got on the wrong side. And if you go back and watch the trackers, which are online, you can see they're looking good. And then even though it may seem like a good angle coming back to the jive mark, they ended up losing to the whole pack that's on the left, basically offshore of them. We put in here, keep an eye out for that buoy at Tanner Bank. It is really deep out there, and the chain is really long. So what ends up happening is it's almost like swinging in an arc out there. And so if you're getting to it at night, it can be hard to find. It may look like it's to your left, and next thing you know, it's a little bit more to your right. So it gets to be pretty tricky for the jive mark.
Wow, that sounds kind of gnarly. And then, in our last webinar, we talked about getting to lee of the islands, whether it's San Clemente Island, in this case, Catalina Island. Talk about what do you look out for? How do you know how far away to get from Catalina? Is there a breeze direction that you're looking at? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, just like we talked about on the islands race, you start to feel the basically a shadow or lee of Catalina. You can see from the tracks here, the guys who are close to the run line kind of start getting lifted up underneath Catalina. Guys are offshore. You really can see them getting lifted and then jibe back out again. They're probably hitting a light spot of the Catalina and then come back out to get back into the breeze, trying to just make their way as best they can into San Diego. And probably as every mile you're getting east, it's getting a little bit lighter coming into San Diego.
Yeah, and is there and then for the around San Clemente down and in, it's probably similar to the Islands race. You know, you stay offshore, you go around, you make a left-hand turn, and then down into San Diego. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So that kind of wraps up the California Offshore Race Week. You know, and that's sort of the last big race before the Transpac, and it's a really good race to kind of test your stuff. If something is going to break, it's probably going to break on this offshore sailing week, especially if you do all three events. Then you kind of have some decisions to make. Trick, you got to pick what sails you're going to bring on this thing. So how do you know what rate, you know, what sails you need to bring on the race, and what are some of the thoughts that go into all that?
Yeah, it's really important because, you know, with all our modern weather routing and weather forecasting, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what conditions you're starting in, at least. You know, it gets a little bit more harder to tell, you know, what's a week down the line, but at least you're going to know what you're starting in. And, you know, the big one to watch for is the big purple blob coming around Point Conception if you're starting Transpac. And, you know, if you know you're starting in one of those, you know it's going to be heavier upwind. It's going to be what the old timers call a fright night. It's going to be rough. It's going to be, you know, gnarly. So be ready to handle heavy weather and have your head sails. You know, you might need a J4 jib and reefed setup for stuff like that. And then, you know, we're a little out of order in our slide here, but the reaching sails is where it really starts to be a big thing in Transpac. The more you in the beginning section, you know, really know how to put up a combination, sail the boat to its high potential at that combination, and then know when you got to change to the next combination and sail it at its best potential as well. And don't kind of fight to sail in the middle. You kind of jump between the crossovers. So knowing your reaching sails, knowing when the staysails are going in. You go back to our first webinar and you know, look back to some of the stuff where we talked about how some of those sails work. But if you really know them, and like the Socal 300 is a great opportunity to go out and go reaching in heavy air that we don't get in San Diego. We don't get it very often, and not a lot of people spend time reaching. We usually go upwind and go downwind. So you know, you don't perfect the art of what are the best combinations for reaching. So that's really important. I know we spent a lot of time on that, and currently we're still working on that on a lot of the boats getting ready for the race. And then, you know, once you're into the running, the big thing is just the spinnakers. You know, you got to have good, solid spinnakers you can rely on to be up for, you know, 7 days, be up through a squall, you know, be up through a roundup, and then you're going to need backups, and you're going to need, you know, another sail, because I know I've been at least once on a Transpac where we essentially ran out of downwind spinnakers and we had to put up like a A3 reacher, and we're just like going north and south and north and south and wise to the west, and you're just like, oh my god, we're never going to get there. You know, so you got to have the right gear, but at the same time, the last one that's really hard, and it is a challenge, is what's the weight, you know, that you're going to carry to have all these sails on board. So, you know, the more weight you have, it's a slower boat. So what do you absolutely need, and what are your backups? And the more you know your inventory and know, you know, what sails are the ones you can rely on, the more you're going to know your inventory to take. But it's really important to know, you know, what it is, and then you're going to have a few sails that are on the chopping blocks. Is it a jib top? Is it a, you know, blast reacher? Is it you know, especially in those first few days, how are you going to get to what we call the slot car lane? You know, and then running its backups and making sure you have enough gear. So it's really important. It's a great game of chess. That's why we love it. It's always different. It's always unique, and it's always a different ocean. So it keeps you guessing. Even if you've done it 10, 20 times, it's going to be new the next time you do it.
Yeah, and I would encourage those who maybe missed our first two webinars and want to know a little bit more about Transpac and getting the slot cars and some of the sails and learning about the sails, go back, review what we've said. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Billy, you've gone into the Molokai channel a few times. You know, talk about what makes that part so cool. Why, you know, everybody gets the epic shot. Talk about some of your experiences with that and what are some things to look out for.
Yeah, I've done this race 5 times, and I've never finished in light air in the Molokai Channel. And this is a great shot of Shapango, Andrews 56, and windy and going fast and finishing Diamond Head. Now, prior to this, you're generally coming into the islands. You start to land. You're doing your 100-mile call or whatever, and the wind is usually more northeast or closer to east sometimes. So you come in, typically you come into the island of Molokai on Port Jibe. And I've come in at night, come in during the day, but I'll never forget just running down the face of Molokai Island during the day. And you're just so happy to be there. Bright blue sky, puffy white clouds, some good breeze. And then at the northwest end of Molokai, you make your jibe for Diamond Head, and that could be an epic jibe. So it's all hands on deck. Everyone's excited to be there for sure. You make the jibe and you start heading toward Diamond Head. And then the Molokai Channel lives up to its name. The wind funnels and the waves funnel through the passage between Molokai Island and Diamond Head. As you get across, you put your best drivers on because you don't want to crash right at the end of the Transpac race. So typically the best drivers are on, the whole crew's on deck, and it just like the photo, it becomes epic. You come in slightly high to Cocoa Head. You'll probably get some headers as you come in. The wind tends to come over the cliffs of Diamond Head and Cocoa Head, and you get some headers, so you'll be pressed with your A2. Here, the pole's forward, the main's fogging a bit, and you just got to sail right past that buoy at Diamond Head to get your finish. But that is the picture postcard end of the race. It's wonderful.
Oh, it looks amazing. And I'm sure that everybody who does the race this year is going to be super stoked when they get there. And hopefully all the equipment holds up. One thing that we've been working on here in San Diego is trying to perfect some of the Spinnaker technology. So we've developed these zippers that make it easier for your crew to pack sails. There's nothing worse than packing sails on a boat that's pounding up and down. We really feel as though we've sort of perfected this technique. Brian, you were part of the production of this video. Talk what's happening basically. This is you and Pike.
Yep, our service manager, Pike. Basically, this is the tack of the sail. It's good to put a shackle somewhere inside the boat or a carabiner that you can clip into. You get the zipper started, and then you bring the blue tape, in this case, and bring it around to the other part of the zipper and just quickly puts it into a nice, what looks like, almost like a socket, what it looks like. It's so nice and tight. And it's very quick. Plenty of time offshore, like used to take 2 people to pack the kite a long time. On a sled, it's like no time at all now to pack the kites. Plus you don't have to deal with yarn or anything like that. Come up here at the end, a big important part, that's why we did this video, is how you finish the zipper. So you run the zipper car all the way off the sail, but you need to make sure you split the zipper apart. And then we put a little Velcro tab to hold it together. If you don't split the zipper apart, the zipper holds it shut. Works really well. There you go. And now it's ready to hoist and blow open.
Yeah, and it's, I know that personally I've done it for a few programs who have guys who are learning about the foredeck and packing spinnakers.
Kind of works well when you're
What?
technology.
Sorry. Technology, a little lag. But yeah, I know it works super well when you're training your team, and it's just great. Sorry, Trick, did you have something to add?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say it's pretty nice offshore. If you get the sail going up into the cockpit and you're pulling it from down below, it makes it a much easier and more friendly way for the team to pack the sail, and it kind of piles itself up out, and then you can just put it back in the bag when you're done. So it's a nice little way to not necessarily always pack all down below.
Yeah. So And that leads us to, something that we've kind of talked a lot about in our last two webinars, but the importance of a sail repair kit. If you're going to do, especially the California Offshore Week, where you're dealing with gnarly conditions and the boat's loading and unloading constantly, something's bound to break or sails are bound to get, messed up, especially if they're a little bit older. This is a list that is available. So contact any one of the four of us. We can help provide the list and talk you through what you have, what you might need. We recommend getting pretty much the whole thing. If you're going to do any of these offshore races. I know Trick, you talked about in the last one, just how valuable it is with some of these 3DI sails, the sail repair kits and some of the stuff that you've been able to achieve offshore.
Yeah, you got to be resourceful when you're on the ocean and things happen. Captain Ron said it, if it's going to happen, it happens out there, right? So things are going to happen. If you have the right material, you can fix things. The 3DI 5-ply is essentially a piece of 3DI material you can use to repair the sails. This Loctite glue is really amazing stuff. It makes it so essentially you don't have to sew. And then we use that the Cuban fiber PSA is another really good all-purpose material. So that, and then some sticky back to fix the spinnakers. But the cool thing is with the 5-ply and glue, you're just not going to have to be sewing and hand sewing. And like the old days on the Volvo, you'd see some poor soul down below with a sewing machine and getting tossed around and probably seasick to the gills down there just sewing away. But you don't have to do that. You can glue things, and you can go back to the Volvo and you see, I think, I forget who it was that was down in right around Cape Horn, and they're, tucked in and gluing these sails back together, and they go off and you go race the rest of the leg. So you can make big repairs at sea now without stitching. That's a pretty big leap in technology. So definitely recommend having and being ready on that end.
Yeah. And, the reason why we do all this, and ourselves included, is it's all about this moment right here. All the boys and gals up on the foredeck, drinking a Mai Tai with the Leia on, getting the picture. This is the best moment of the whole deal. And this is truly an experience. I know I've never done it, so I don't know what that feeling is like, but I can only imagine just sort of the euphoria that everyone feels. And it's a lot of preparation and investment and of time and money. And, it's a great effort for everybody to do it. And with that, we wish everybody the best of luck, safe travels. If anyone has any questions at all, do not hesitate to reach out to any of the four of us. We're available, basically Monday through Friday. And if you see us on the weekend, just pull us aside, and we're happy to help with anything. So, no question is a dumb question, especially on something as serious as these races. Boys, it's been a pleasure chatting about offshore sailing. I know I've learned a lot. I'm the head of One Design, but I'm starting to get into the dibble and the dabble of the offshore sailing scene, and you've taught me a lot about this whole thing. And I hope that the viewers at home learn more. So any last words? Anybody?
Well, just have fun. Be prepared enough. It makes the sailing the easy part.
Great. All right. Well, boys, we'll see you later. Let us know if anybody has any questions. Here's our contact information, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.